What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, legendary promoter, top ranked CEO, Bob Arum, says that his number one now prize fighter, undefeated 3-division world champion, former undisputed junior welterweight world champion, and currently the WBO welterweight world champion, and is widely considered the number one pound for pound fighter in the world, Terence Bud Crawford. When asked, he did a recent interview on Barbershop Conversations in which he stated that when asked, what should Terence Crawford next plans be, and how does he go about getting no big fights with the other welterweights who are all predominantly on the PBC, Premier Boxing Champion side of the street, and they fight on Showtime and Fox. And Bob Arum responded by saying, well, Fred, who's on Barbershop Conversations, he stated that, should Terence Crawford eventually look to make a move over to Premier Boxing Champions? And a lot of people suggesting that's what he should have done. And Bob Arum agreed. Bob Arum said maybe that is the case. Maybe that's best for him to go over to Premier Boxing Champions to get those big fights because they have all the big names. They have two-time welterweight world champion Showtime Sean Porter. They have 2-division world champion, former unified junior welterweight world champion, former WBC welterweight world champion Danny Swift Garcia, who will be fighting undefeated unified WBC IBF welterweight world champion superstar boxer Earl of True Spence Jr. December 5th. They also have the likes of Yordanis Ugas, who is now the WBA regular champion, welterweight world champion, and they have guys that pretty much moonlight with the PBC. You have Jerome Boots Ennis. You have who Terence Crawford is going to be fighting next in former IBF welterweight world champion, British superstar boxer, Special K, Kell Brook. So the big names are over with the Premier Boxing Champion, the PBC, right? And so Bob Arum surprisingly agreed. He says that, yeah, maybe that is the case. He says, but if he says he is making a boatload of money over here with Top Rank and ESPN, he stated, but, we are having an influx of young junior welterweights that are going to start to make their way to welterweight, and these are options for Terence Crawford if he wants to stay with us. But if he wants to fight those guys, that's an option. Maybe he should go over there, explore, and see about fighting and showcasing his talents over there. So Bob Arum, surprisingly, to my surprise and to most of the fans' surprise, is not against Terence Crawford leaving Top Rank and himself and going over to Premier Boxing Champions. Well, now we have to take into account that Bob Arum is almost 90 years old, and Bob Arum is to the end of his rope, and he's looking at the situation like, he's pretty much shrugging his shoulders. Now, obviously, Bob Arum still wants to make the most money possible for himself and his family and the future of his family. But at this point in time, Bob Arum just seems to be at the point where he's not willing to put up the fight. And we know he did with 4-division world champion Mexican superstar Mikey Garcia, who wanted out of his contract. But it seems like most of these big-name guys, once they get to a certain level with Bob Arum and Top Rank, they exit stage left, right? We saw Floyd Mayweather was with Top Rank. He exited stage left. We saw Oscar De La Hoya. He was with Top Rank. He exited stage left. We saw Miguel Cotto. He was with Top Rank. He exited stage left. Manny Pacquiao. He was with Top Rank. He exited stage left. Mikey Garcia was with Top Rank. Exited stage left. So we see these guys, they get to a certain point with Top Rank and Bob Arum, and they, they go veer on their own journey. And that's it, right? So maybe Bob Arum is to the point where he feels like this is what happens, right? He's used to it by now. So the longest guy he kept was Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao just recently left, and he went over to Premier Boxing Champions. But all of these guys seem to eventually find their way over to the PBC at some point in time. So with that said, Bob Arum he says he's not against Terence Crawford making his way over to the PBC and getting these big legacy fights, because Terence Crawford is going to fight Kell Brook. Kell Brook, beat Sean Porter. That was back in 2014. We're in 2020, and we're heading into 2021. So the last time Kell Brook fought at welterweight was when he lost and got stopped by now unified undefeated world champion Errol Spence Jr. back in 2017 when Errol Spence went to the UK and took the IBF title from him. Kell Brook cited his weight being as the reason why he couldn't perform at the best of his abilities, and he lost to Errol Spence. Then he called for Errol Spence to eventually come up to 154, where he started to campaign. He said, "I will be more strong. I'll be stronger. I'll be more. I'll have more endurance, and I'll be more effective at 154 than I was at 147." Well, now 3 years later, here we have it. 3 years later, Kell Brook is making his way back south to 147 to challenge Terence Crawford for his WBO 147 welterweight world title. That is not going to. This seems like a situation where Kell Brook is seeing a big fight. It's a title opportunity, and he's going to go for the gusto. This is like a last gasp opportunity for Special K Kell Brook. He suffered 2 major eye injuries back to back against Gennady Triple G Golovkin when he dared to be great, jumping from 147 up to 160. And then when he fought Errol Spence was his next fight, and Errol Spence broke his other eye socket. So he suffered 2 bad eye injuries back-to-back fights. And we haven't seen him fight high-level competition since then. And he hasn't fought at the welterweight limit of 147 since then either. So this fight with Terence Crawford, it's a name on paper, and it's the biggest challenge in his career on paper, namesake-wise, right? But I expect Terence Crawford to showcase his talents. I expect this to be a showcase fight. I expect him to put on a beautiful performance, a masterclass performance, and I expect him to stop Kell Brook somewhere between the 9th and 10th round, right? I don't see Kell Brook getting past that because Terence Crawford is very accurate. He's very versatile. He can fight from the southpaw or the orthodox stance. He doesn't waste a lot of punches. And, like I said, he's a smooth boxer from the outside, but he can mix it up and be a dog on the inside. So Terence Crawford is too versatile for Kell Brook. He's fought at high level now more so than Kell Brook is fighting. Kell Brook has been inactive, fighting once a year at times. So Kell Brook is, on paper, like I stated, is the best namesake on paper for Terence Crawford. But as far as level of competition, no, he's not. There's definitely better competition out there. Mainly, everybody started to call for Terence Crawford to face off against Showtime Sean Porter after Sean Porter put on a dazzling performance against Errol Spence, in which he came up short. I thought Errol Spence won the championship rounds, 10, 11, and 12. He dropped Sean Porter in the 11th round, created separation. He clearly won the 12th round, and the victory went to Errol Spence. But Sean Porter put up a beautiful performance. He just came up short. Sometimes, great offense, great defense gets overshadowed by great offense. And that's a similar situation. He put up a great performance, but Errol Spence is the more skilled, more versatile guy, and he was able to separate himself from Sean Porter and the beautiful performance he put up. So with that said, everybody wanted to see how Terence Crawford deal with a style like Sean Porter. And what adjustments can he make? Because we know Terence Crawford can make adjustments, and he's definitely going to have to make adjustments against Sean Porter. So everybody was calling to see that fight. But he told Sean Porter, according to Sean Porter, he said that he reached out to Terence Crawford, and Terence Crawford told him he has bigger plans, set forth. So if those plans fall through, he'll revisit the possibility of fighting Sean Porter. Now we learned that, according to Bob Arum, he had a deal already signed and ready to go against 8th Division world champion, iconic, legendary boxer, and currently the WBA Diamond Super Champion, Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao. But that fell through due to, the Board of Health, according to Bob Arum, in the country that they were going to stage the fight due to the pandemic and social distancing. So that fight fell through. With that said, Terence Crawford was left looking for an opponent because he wanted to get another fight in before the year is up, and that's how Kell Brook landed on the paperwork, and now he's going to fight Kell Brook November 14th. With that said, there's definitely bigger fights out there for Terence Crawford, and like I stated, those fights are on the other side of the street with the PBC. And even if Danny Garcia, loses to Errol Spence, if he has a good outing against Errol Spence, he put up a great performance like Sean Porter did, that's a big fight. Mikey Garcia right now currently doesn't have a opponent. He said he wanted to get a fight in before the year's up. I don't see Terence Crawford fighting Mikey Garcia, obviously, because he has a fight November 14th, and that's the rest of his year. But there is all indications that Mikey Garcia will be doing business and facing off against Manny Pacquiao in early part of 2021. So we have to see how that plays out. But that's another big fight for Terence Crawford. Mikey Garcia. So there's plenty of big fights out there for Terence Crawford. Your Dana Ugas is another one, right? So there's plenty of big fights out here for Terence Crawford, but they're on the other side of the street. And Bob Arum says he's not going to hold Terence Crawford, and he's not against Terence Crawford leaving Top Rank to make those big fights. He says, but the other option, plan B, is to allow these guys. He said they have a big fight coming up on Top Rank, and that is his fighter, Jose Ramirez, who is the unified champion at junior welterweight. He'll be facing off against British superstar, undefeated junior welterweight world champion, who's unified, Josh Taylor. So you got two superstar boxers that's going to do business. They're stating that it's a possibility this fight could take place in late February or early March. It's for Undisputed. So then you will have the winner of that fight plans to move up and challenge Terence Crawford at 147. So now you'll have, that's a big, huge storyline. That's a big fight because you have the last Undisputed world champion in Terence Crawford versus the most recent Undisputed junior welterweight world champion and the winner, Josh Taylor, Jose Ramirez. So that's a big fight for him. Other than that, Bob Arum rattled off a bunch of names coming up from junior welterweight, coming up to welterweight limit. But those are not legacy fights for Terence Crawford, who turned 33 years of age in September. So Terence Crawford, Father Time, is not on his side either. So he has to start, putting the pedal to the metal, right? It's go time for Terence Crawford. Father Time is undefeated. He got to make it happen. So, I was surprised, but I think that Terence Crawford, there was a lot of reports and a lot of talk and a lot of rumors that Terence Crawford could explore going to the PBC. Bob Arum says he's not opposed to it. And I think that that's a move that Terence Crawford definitely should look into for his legacy and for his career, because those big fights are eluding him. And a fighter of his talent with his skill set should not be, fighting lackluster opponents or, should not plateau, because that's what's happening. He's fighting guys that, are pretty much a 75, 35, fight, 75-25, fight in favor of, Terence Crawford. So, I'm 75-35, in favor of Terence Crawford. So with that said, we want to see Terence Crawford in 50-50 fights. So we got to see Terence Crawford in with better opposition that can challenge his skill set and see him push to the brink and see what adjustments he make for his legacy and for his future. So let's see how this all plays out. But drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue, Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, or one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.